Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jack, back in to bring you the Mythic Conclave of the Chosen healing guide. Everything you need to know about taking down the Conclave from the healing point of view. You'll also be able to see our raid cooldowns going out periodically throughout this fight, and if you'd like to be able to check them out, they're linked in the description below as well. Throughout this fight, we are pushing for killing a Gonk more rapidly, which means leaving Paku up will put out a significantly larger amount of tank damage on throughout the fight. So from a healer point of view, having strong tank healing is already going to be a critical part of the strategy, and understanding how much damage is going to be going out and when it will be most critical for us to be spamming the tanks and how we can best prepare ourselves. We 5 healed, so we had a wealth of externals to be able to rotate onto those tanks, and we opted to bring in a lot more meteor tanks in Brewmaster and Prop Paladin to deal with a lot of the heavier physical damage going out in the encounter and really smooth out a lot of it for the healers. The big mechanic to worry about is going to be Bwansamdi's debuff, Bwansamdi's curse. So about every minute or so throughout the fight, he will curse one player and prevent them from receiving any healing. When that player is dispelled, the curse just jumps to the nearest eligible target. So from our point of view, it was a lot of damage going out, but we also needed to continue to have strong dispels, especially during Paku's Wrath, to be able to get direct healing onto targets that were unable to receive healing, dispelling them quickly, topping them off, and then making sure the target that received the curse after that point had enough HP to survive. Continue to go out about every minute throughout the encounter, so it can be shielded. So whenever Rapture is going off as Disc Priest, you want to make sure you prioritize those targets with curses, and if you can, having people receiving the debuffs be a little more tanky, a bit more defensive, was also very helpful for us. Shining Force is a must for priest healers to be knocking back any of the raptors that Gonk will be spawning throughout the encounter. And a lot of the rules from Heroic to follow, making sure you're staying spread out for Kimball, making sure you're watching out for Cragwall the Frog from any of the knockbacks there, and a lot of the damage ramp-ups and damage burst windows are going to be very similar. Any wipes are going to happen from Kimball jumping onto the group as you're stacking up for Paku, having too much damage going out from killing an aspect while Paku's Wrath is going out, and generally just poor preparation. You're not going to be able to have evangelism for every single Paku wins, so I often alternated between Rapture and evangelism to be able to have some coverage, and you should always be able to have a good amount of powered radiance charges for every single Paku wins going out or aspect death. The areas that you're not having as strong of ramp ups, you want to be able to work with the other healers to be able to have something ready for you. I think our most critical area was around 245. We didn't quite have enough healing to be able to push people's health pools up, and some people were lingering a little bit lower, and we incurred an early death as a result. Knowing where your most critical areas are at, this was basically just as we bloodlust once we got out of that more dangerous phase. So having those little walls to overcome, knowing what you need to be looking for, are very important for the encounter. It's a pretty fast fight, so you should be able to be fairly aggressive with your mana over the course of it, but there's also sufficient dead time where you should be able to get a decent channel mana potion in. A lot of times after you have a successful aspect death or Paku wins, you will be able to start spreading out the group once again and then start cycling through which healers are going to be able to use their cooldowns. Big thing is going to be making sure that as a Disc Priest, all of the damage that you deal to one aspect is completely healed up if another aspect dies. So making sure you're always focusing onto the current aspect target that everybody else is DPSing makes a very big difference throughout the fight. If you're having it where an aspect's about to die and you're just about to be hitting your schism and then dumping smites into the target, then I would say it's okay to be focusing the other target to be able to ensure that your healing throughput is not interrupted. Applying schism to a target that dies soon afterwards is not going to do much good and will significantly lower your throughput throughout the fight. Damage wasn't really our concern, and there was a lot of mobility required throughout it. So I think Shadow Covenant, in my mind, it was a very useful to bring over Sins of the Many. But if we're needing more damage onto them to be able to meet certain requirements, timing was a big issue for us, and making sure we were timing aspect deaths properly with raid cooldowns was very helpful for us to do. And as you near the end of the fight, having constant dispels and making sure, from our point of view, we had our Shaman and Druid doing most of the spells for the curses, but also making sure the mages knew which wins we needed extra dispels and extra dispel help, so we were constantly bouncing the debuffs back and forth between players, that we were more easily able to top other people off. The end of the fight does end up going into a straight burn, as Paku is the last aspect to end up dying. You're going to have tons of raptors moving out around the room. You'll have a Kunda's Wrath, balls and orbs coming out from that perspective, and the tank damage is usually going to be quite high throughout. So being able to have that pacing is going to be very important. And as you're entering into this 5.5 minute mark, this is around when you're looking to use the last bit of cooldowns you have available, any other remaining resources here to keep people alive. I ended up popping Rapture and just started shielding any debuff targets I could find and using every last shred of mana at my disposal, and even trying to get that last second barrier off, be able to kill the aspect and be able to start finishing up the fight. Mana did become quite a bit of a concern for us, to the point where I couldn't even drop the barrier at the end of the fight because I was so but with people going down, it pretty much goes into one of those encounters where people slowly start kind of ticking away, start dropping off and dying. So doing what you can to make sure you're staying alive, making sure you're not taking any extra damage throughout the encounter is critical. Watching the positioning for Paku wins is important, because Paku will always take basically a half circle around the room before he ends up landing. So watching which position that he ends up going to, then noting that he'll take about a half circle around before he lands, and then about 8 or 9 seconds of RP helped me out considerably in figuring out my ramp up windows, to the point where I was actually able to ramp up as I was moving into position and still had time to cast my Radiance charges and hit Evangelism before Paku's damage actually started. Hope you all found this useful. Let me know if you have any questions, if you'd like to be able to see more of our cooldown orders. Link is going to be in the description below. Be sure to also check out the live stream as well, where we're streaming all of our Mythic programs. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll catch you all next time.